My beloved child, I see you, sitting there with eyes full of tears and a heart full of silence. You've been carrying pain in places no one even knows exist. You've been grieving losses no one witnessed, battling thoughts no one could hear, and wondering if anyone, even I, noticed when everything you built began to fall apart. But hear me now. You didn't lose everything. You didn't lose me. And because you still have me, you still have hope. You still have purpose. You still have a future. I'm not finished. I'm not done writing your story. And what I'm about to restore in your life will be greater than what you lost. Yes, greater. Because I am the God who restores. Not just what was taken, but even what you thought could never come back. So don't you dare give up now. You're standing on the edge of a new chapter. And I, the Lord your God, am about to do something you never saw coming. My child, do you remember the moment you felt everything shift? The moment the call came, the moment the door closed, the moment the person you trusted walked away. Yes, that moment. You didn't just lose a job or a relationship or an opportunity. You lost a piece of yourself. You held it all together for so long, smiling on the outside, breaking on the inside. No one knew the weight you carried, but I knew. I saw the moment your hands shook while trying to keep your world from crumbling. I watched when you stared at the ceiling in the middle of the night, asking yourself, is this the end? Is this all I was meant for? You whispered prayers under your breath, not with hope, but with desperation. I heard everyone. I counted every tear. And even when your faith was hanging by a thread, I never let go of you. You kept walking, even with a limp in your soul. You went to work. You took care of others. You smiled at strangers. You said you were fine. But inside, you were breaking, layer by layer. You didn't understand why things were being taken from you. You didn't understand why I allowed the storm to hit your house when you had done everything right. You tried to be the strong one, the reliable one, the one who said, God's got this. But secretly, you began to wonder, does he really? Is he still with me? Did I mess something up? No, my child, you didn't mess anything up. And I was never punishing you. I was pruning you. I was stripping away what was no longer serving your purpose. Not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I wanted to heal you. Some things had to be removed. Some people had to walk away. Some dreams had to die, so that my dreams for you could be born. I know what scared you the most. The silence. You prayed and heard nothing. You cried out and felt nothing. You waited and saw nothing. And in that stillness, the enemy whispered, he's gone. He's forgotten you. You're alone. But child, listen to me now. The silence was not my absence. It was my strategy. I was working behind the scenes, even when the stage looked empty. I was fighting battles you couldn't see, rescuing you from things you didn't even know were dangerous. I was building strength inside of you, strength you'd need for the road ahead. Because what I'm calling you to carry requires a version of you that pain has been shaping. And I don't waste pain. Not a single tear, not a single lonely night, not a single unanswered prayer. It was all seen, all heard, all recorded. And now, the story is shifting. I want you to pause for a moment and look around. Yes, I know what you lost, but do you know what you still have? You still have your breath. You still have your heart. You still have a mind that kept going even when it wanted to shut down. You still have people who pray for you even when you don't feel strong enough to pray for yourself. And most of all, you still have me. You didn't lose everything because I was never lost. I never walked away. I never gave up on you. I never stopped believing in what I created you to be. You still have your calling. You still have your purpose. You still have the oil that I placed inside your spirit before you were even born, and no storm can take that away. What if I told you some of the things that left you were never meant to stay? Some of the people you mourned were never meant to walk with you into your destiny. What you thought was rejection was actually protection. You saw it as loss, but I saw it as redirection. Because I will never let something die in your life unless resurrection is on the way. You prayed for peace, but it didn't come the way you expected. You asked for strength, but I gave you trials to build it. You asked for clarity, but I gave you seasons of confusion so you would cling tighter to me. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment, it was allowed so I could prepare you for something bigger. You were looking for survival, but I'm preparing you for revival. My beloved, there was a time when your faith was light, like a flame dancing in your heart. You believed easily. You trusted without question. You lifted your hands in worship even when you didn't understand the outcome. But then life began to press down on you, one thing after another, disappointment after disappointment. And slowly, your faith started to feel heavy. You carried it like a burden, not a blessing. You began to wonder, why is this happening to me? Where are you, Lord? Why do others seem to get their prayers answered, but not me? You watched people who didn't even acknowledge me get promotions, blessings, opportunities, while you, my faithful one, stood in the wilderness with nothing but a promise and a broken heart. And in that place, you began to doubt if I still saw you. In your lowest moment, the enemy began to whisper, "You're cursed. You're forgotten. You're not good enough. God's tired of you." And the worst part, you started to believe it. You looked at your reflection and didn't recognize the person staring back. Your strength, your joy, your fire, all faded. You began to isolate, to pull away from others, to smile so no one would ask questions. Because if they knew how empty you felt inside, they'd see the truth. You weren't just losing battles outside, you were losing the one inside your own mind. But my child, even in that dark place, I was still there. You may have walked through the valley of the shadow of death, but you were never walking alone. There came a moment when you stopped asking me to restore you, not because you didn't want it, but because you no longer believed you deserved it. You said things like, "Maybe this is my punishment. Maybe I'm too broken. Maybe God's finished with me." You convinced yourself that others were worthy of blessings, but not you. You carried guilt from your past, shame from your failures, and silence from years of heartbreak. But listen to me now. You are not disqualified. What disqualified you in the eyes of others qualifies you for my mercy. I do not choose the flawless. I choose the willing, the humble, the surrendered. And you, my child, you are still chosen, even in your mess, even in your weakness, even in your silence. I have not changed my mind about you. There was a night, a very specific night, when you almost gave up for good. You had no words left, no tears left, no hope left. You stared into the darkness and felt it staring back, and though no one else knew, you thought about quitting everything. You thought about walking away from the faith, from your calling, maybe even from life itself. But someone held you back. It was me. My spirit hovered over your broken heart and whispered, "Just one more day. Don't give up now." And you didn't. You survived a night that was meant to destroy you. That was not weakness. That was victory. And I saw it. The hardest part of your story was this. You thought the loss was final. You closed the chapter and assumed the book was over. You buried the dream and assumed resurrection wasn't possible. You looked at your life and assumed nothing good could grow from the ashes. But child, let me remind you, I am the resurrection and the life. Nothing is final until I say it is. That relationship that ended, I can heal you. That opportunity that vanished, I can restore more. That failure you can't stop replaying, I can redeem it. What looks like an ending is often just the soil where new beginnings are buried. But I know it didn't feel like that. It felt like loss, like grief, like failure, like emptiness. And in that place you questioned everything, even me. But I didn't flinch. I didn't run from your doubts. I didn't leave when your faith was weak. Because I don't love you because of your strength. I love you, even in your weakness. And that is why I'm restoring you, my beloved child. There came a sacred moment when everything around you had fallen apart. No resources, no support, no answers, no strength. You sat in silence, not because you wanted to, but because your soul had grown tired of crying out. And yet, in that moment, when you had nothing left but me, you discovered something you had missed all along. I was always enough. You felt my peace not in the noise, but in the stillness. You felt my presence not in the miracle, but in the waiting. You found me not in your victory, but in your brokenness. That moment, when everything else faded, became the birthplace of your restoration. Child, there was a day when you opened your eyes and, for the first time in a long time, you didn't feel crushed. The pain was still there, but it didn't control you. The storm was still raging, but you were no longer drowning. You didn't even notice it at first, but something inside you had changed. A small flicker of hope. A quiet whisper in your spirit. I'm not finished with you. That whisper, it was me, calling you back to life, calling you out of your grave, calling you forward. And from that moment on, the atmosphere around you started to shift. I watched you take one small, trembling step forward. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't celebrated, but heaven noticed. You moved. And that step, however small it felt, was a declaration in the spiritual realm. Hell trembled. Angels rejoiced. Because my child was rising. You didn't feel strong yet, but strength was returning. You didn't feel whole yet, but healing had begun. I was awakening what the enemy tried to bury. Child, while you slept, I was working. While you cried, I was collecting your tears. While you prayed, I was rearranging things behind the scenes. Piece by piece, brick by brick, I began to rebuild what you thought was ruined forever. But this time, I wasn't rebuilding the old version of you. No, I was building a stronger, wiser, deeper version, one that couldn't be shaken again. The losses you experienced, they didn't break you. They trained you. The people who left you, they didn't rob you. They cleared the path. The silence you endured, it didn't mean I was absent. It meant I was preparing something greater than you could imagine. One day you woke up and something inside you was different. You began to speak with power again. You started to walk with purpose again. You didn't just survive the storm. You came out with a new fire, a fire forged in trials, a fire born in tears, a fire that the enemy couldn't extinguish. And that fire is holy, because now, when you lift your hands, you know what it cost. Now, when you sing, heaven hears the sound of a survivor. You're not the same, and that is what I needed to see. Because the old you trusted me when it was easy, but this you trusts me when it's hard. And that kind of faith, that kind of love, that kind of obedience moves mountains, my beloved child. Do you remember the moments you thought were wasted? The seasons where it felt like nothing was working? I was watching. And now, I have begun to restore. You thought you lost too much. You thought it was too late. But I am not limited by time. I restore years, not just moments. I'm restoring the strength you gave away in survival. I'm restoring the laughter that disappeared in grief. I'm restoring the identity that was stolen by lies. You will no longer walk like someone defeated, because I am restoring you in full, not just to who you were, but to who you were always meant to become. You didn't cry in vain. You didn't suffer for nothing. Every ounce of pain you carried, I have transformed it into purpose. The betrayal, it made you wiser. The loss, it made you tender. The silence, it made you still enough to hear me again. Now, you carry something sacred. Now, your scars have stories. Now, your wounds have wisdom. You don't just walk as someone who was rescued. You walk as someone who can now rescue others. That is kingdom restoration. Not just healing you, but healing through you. What I am placing in your hands again, no man can steal, no devil can touch, no circumstance can cancel. Because this time, you're walking in my timing, you're walking in my covering, you're walking with authority. I'm restoring your peace, permanent. I'm restoring your voice, bold. I'm restoring your calling, unshakable. This time the door I open will not close. The well I fill will not run dry. The table I prepare for you will not be overturned. Because I, the Lord your God, am faithful to finish what I started in you. I never forgot you, even when you felt invisible, even when everyone else overlooked you. I never stopped calling your name in heaven. I never removed my hand from your life. Your name is still written on my palms. Your prayers are still in my presence. Your tears are still in my bottle. I didn't discard you when you were broken. I carried you until the day I could rebuild you. Look around, child. Can you feel it? Something is shifting. Something is returning. Something is restoring. And now it's time. Time to rise again. Time to believe again. Time to step into everything I promised you. The enemy tried to bury you, but he didn't realize you were a seed. And I, your creator, am calling life forth from you again. Old things are passing away. Behold, I make all things new. New joy, new strength, new opportunities, new days filled with peace. And when people ask you, how did you come back from that? You will say, Jesus restored me. My precious child, if there is one truth you must carry from this entire journey, it is this: you never lost me. Even when you lost direction, even when you lost relationships, even when you lost yourself, you never lost me. I was with you in the darkest nights, in the quietest cries, in the most painful chapters. You may have let go of hope, but I never let go of you. This is the lesson you now know by heart. Not just that I saved you, but that I stayed with you. The pain you despised became the very place where my glory touched your life. Your brokenness wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of transformation. In your weakness, you learned where true strength comes from. In your silence, you heard my whisper clearer than ever. And now you know that even shattered pieces can shine when placed in my hands. What the world called ruined, I called redeemed. Look at you now, my child. You didn't just survive. You were strengthened. You didn't just recover. You were refined. You didn't just make it through. You grew. You've learned to walk with faith, even when feelings were absent. You've learned to trust my voice, even when my silence stretched long. You've learned to worship, not for what I give, but because you now know who I am. And that strength in you, no one gave it but me. No one can take it but me. And I have no intention of removing it, because I'm not done using it. You thought this was the finish line, but I say to you, this is only the beginning of legacy, the beginning of ministry, the beginning of healed relationships, new dreams, and redeemed time. You see the end of pain, but I see the birth of purpose. You see scars, but I see seeds. What you went through will water the soil of others' healing. Your story will open locked hearts. Your testimony will unlock hope in the hopeless. You thought you were just surviving, but I was preparing you to become a vessel of my glory. Every trial, every tear, every delay, I used it. Nothing was wasted. The closed doors protected you. The silence shaped you. The heartbreak humbled you. And all of it, every detail, was part of a masterpiece. Now you know me deeper. Now you trust me fully. Now you walk in faith, not fear. And because of that, you are ready. My beloved, you didn't lose everything. You lost what couldn't stay, so I could give you what was meant to remain. You lost what was built by the world, so I could rebuild you with kingdom foundation. And now, look again. You have more wisdom, more resilience, more faith, more purpose. And above all, you have me. And I am restoring everything now, not just what you had, but far more than you imagined. The story isn't over. It's only beginning. Walk with me, because what's coming next is greater than what you lost.
Type Amen and like this video if you love God. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more content like this. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you in the next one.